Well, welcome back to my bathroom budget makeover. Last week we started this project by installing this beautiful peel and stick wallpaper. It's super affordable, so I love it for this bathroom. And I removed the builder grade mirror. This week we're going to start by installing vertical shiplap. You'll learn the fastest way to cut your shiplap boards, how tall they should be, and how to do any of those awkward cuts like around the vanity. Well, let's go. I'm going to start cutting down my shiplap boards. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to set up a stop block. And a stop block is anything that you're going to put so that every single board is the same length and you don't need to measure it. So usually I would put something at the end of my workbench and then clamp it down. I'm actually going to use my garage as the end point. So I have to measure from the middle of my saw, like where my blade would go down, to this point and make sure it's the right length. And I'm just going to slide my saw back and forth to make sure it stays there. Here you can see I'm measuring from the center plate of my saw to the garage door. I cut my shiplap boards at 44 inches high. I have a 9-foot ceiling and I wanted it to be less than halfway up the wall. Once I've got the exact right height for the shiplap boards, I'm putting something heavy at the end, like peanut butter or a can of paint, so that the saw doesn't move as you cut your boards. Just check this out in real time. It is so much faster than having to measure every single board. So you see how I slid the board over and I just butted it up against the garage door. See, I didn't even have to measure it. I actually cut all my boards in like 10 minutes. That's 42 boards that I cut, guys. Definitely try this out. Let's speed this along. Isn't this so satisfying to watch? I also cut the top panel that's going to go across the top of the shiplap boards. For all my boards, I'm using pre-primed boards. This, one, saves you a lot of time. Two, it actually gives you a really nice finish since the boards are already primed. We're ready to paint these boards. I had a hard time deciding on the color, so I put up 2 swatches, but now I know that I've picked the right color based on the door, the wallpaper, and the floor that's already in there because we are not changing any of the tiles in here. I picked Thunderous by Sherwin-Williams and it is such a beautiful color. I think it's going to go perfectly with that wallpaper and give this bathroom a really opulent and moody vibe. There's 3 main ways that you can paint your shiplap. The first is to pre-paint it like I am. The second is to nail your boards up and then paint it after. And the third is to spray them. Now I opted to paint these before I mounted them to the wall because it's kind of hard to get into all those little grooves of the shiplap boards. Since they overlap, it would just be really difficult because the crevice would be so tiny and you'd have to go in with a paintbrush, like a craft brush. Now, you could also spray this. Alternatively, you could also nail all the boards up in the bathroom and then use a paint sprayer after. I just feel like this is really difficult. I've sprayed in my bathroom, in my powder room where I did another accent wall, and it was just really hard. You have to tape up behind the vanity, behind the toilet, and there's a lot of weird crevices in a bathroom to tape up. Over on my Instagram, I was asked if I was concerned about these boards getting moldy, and I'm not. We have really good ventilation in this bathroom, and it's actually not used a ton for showers. Plus, I'm using Emerald paint by Sherwin-Williams, and it has great durability. Time for that second coat paint magic, and as you can see, the color is just coming out beautiful. I really hate removing baseboards. You will see why. My builder put in 1,000 nails on every section where you remove baseboards, so it's really hard to remove them. But guess there's some things you just got to do. So I'm just cutting the caulk off. I'm starting off by doing that, and I want to reuse these. Okay, so hopefully we can. Next, you're going to take a pry bar and wedge it between the baseboard and the wall, and you're going to use a mallet to just try and pull the baseboard off the wall. You're just trying to create a gap, and you want to do that all the way along the top of the baseboard. Once you've created a gap at the top, you can try and actually wedge the board off the wall. Okay, there you go. Moment of glory. Okay, this is what I meant. Why? Why are there so many nails? It just makes no sense to me whatsoever. Why do we have so many nails on this board? I'm so excited. We're at the point that we're going to be installing our shiplap. So the first step is to install this board that's going to go on top. So remember, I've already done a couple of coats of paint on them, and I've marked on the wall how high it's going to go and also with a level of how it's going to be straight. So I'm lining up my board to that mark there. Now, you really want to be certain that this is straight because every single one of your shiplap boards is going to butt up against it. So I'm going to go ahead and use my level just to double check that this is going to be straight. Now, once that's done, I'm going to use a cordless brad nailer. This is my favorite tool for any type of accent walls, and I'm actually not going to check if it's going into studs. I'm just going to nail it in a few different places, and you can crisscross the nails here, making an X, but I'm pretty sure this is not going to fall off the wall. Like, no one's going to be pulling at this. Now, hopefully, this should all we'll push all the boards up right against this, and then hopefully they all line up. Up. Never assume that your walls are level. You have to make sure that the first board goes on perfectly plumb, which is that you got to make sure it's totally level vertically, because if you don't, every single one of your boards after that will be crooked. So just take the time to do this before you nail in your boards. Luckily, my board is level against that tile there, so I can use that as my marker and start nailing in my boards. I've done an accent wall in 2 other bathrooms, and to be honest, it always makes me a little bit nervous because there might be plumbing somewhere in this bathroom. On this side of the wall, I'm pretty sure there's 0 plumbing because the vanity and the toilet and even the shower handle are like all on the other side of the bathroom. So this one I'm not as concerned, but I am using like 1.5 inch nails, which aren't that deep. When we move to the other side of the wall, I'll go even shorter. Oh my gosh, after painting all these edges, I realized I didn't paint these ones. Like, you can totally see that, right? Whatever, just keep going. It's too late. I'm gonna do another coat of paint after I spackle all the nail holes anyway, so I'm hoping that at that point it will just be easy to cover because it's not like the entire groove, it's just a little tiny piece of the side. Let's move to the other side of the wall. We need to mark where our rail is going to go, and we need to make sure it's at the exact same height as the other side of the wall. If you're enjoying this tutorial so far, make sure to hit the subscribe button so you can see how the rest of this bathroom turns out. You can never make sure it's level enough times. Alright, now we get to do the least fun thing. Because I refuse to remove this toilet, we shall remove the baseboards with the toilet on. I'm struggling to remove this baseboard, and there's a reason why. So I just realized this. The trim actually goes behind the vanity. Can you see that? So I would have to remove the vanity or use my So now I actually know that I'm not going to remove that baseboard behind the toilet. It's just too hard to remove, and like, it's a toilet, no one's really going to see behind it. So I'm going to cut my boards down to length, but I do have to cut out the hole for the toilet like water connection, so we'll do that today too. I don't know what plumbing lies behind the toilet. I'm a little bit nervous because I definitely don't want to like puncture any of the plumbing. So I'm gonna switch my nails to a 1-inch nail. It's a little bit shallow, but then I think if I caulk them and we put the top board up, it should be okay. Like, they're not gonna fall out. They're just not gonna be like super secure. I got to mark where the toilet connection is for the water, so I'm just going to butt my board up here and kind of guesstimate. You see that arch? That's kind of where I think that I need to make a cut for the hose for the toilet. I just kind of butted it up against the shiplap boards that were there, and then I kind of drew a mark, and I hope it's going to work. I'm using my jigsaw. I love this little tool, and one tip I have is to use a finer tooth blade. Don't just use a standard one. Go ahead and grab the $10 set. So I'm using a fine tooth blade here, and I find that it just cuts so much cleaner, especially when you're trying to do a curve like this. So let me show you how that looks behind. So from the top you can't see, from the bottom you can't really see, but anyways, it's pretty good. Like it's a good fit, I would say. Need some paint touch up, but it looks good. Now we have to tackle this complicated cut around the vanity. I have to do that absurd cut now, and I'm not anticipating that I'm actually gonna get it on my first try. If I do, be a miracle. But I'm gonna just draw it out and we'll cross our fingers. So here's the cut that I have to do. So I think this, because it's so long, I'm gonna use my table saw. Then I'll come in like close to here, I'll stop, and I'll use my jigsaw for this. So this is all that I'm getting rid of. I hope I've interpreted that correctly. All that work for just one single piece of trim. Let's see how this fits. Moment of truth. It's a perfect fit. 5 years ago, I never thought I could do that cut. Okay, so you see here, actually it's a perfect fit, but then as it goes down, the gap gets smaller. So I'm not gonna use a saw. I'm just actually gonna use my sander and sand this a bit because the shiplap is not sitting flat. This corner here now, so you might not realize it, but there's actually quite a bit to do here. We need to pull this outlet out because this trim has to extend across from here. So like there's gonna go that top trim there. I'm on a voltmeter, so this is something you would use to make sure there's no power running through here. So I have to go and turn off the actual circuit breaker, and then we'll make sure it's good to use before we start fiddling with it. But basically this is what I'm going to use. This is an extender, okay? And this extender, it will like allow you to bring the outlet out so that this piece of wood can like sit behind it. And then there's going to be a bar here. You'll see when it's done, it's going to make a lot more sense. So I cut this piece of wood that's going to go here. I need to like mark the opening, and the easiest way to do that is have the outlet covered. Where did I put that outlet cover? So you can just trace this, right? To cut this out, first you want to make a hole for the jigsaw blade with a really big drill bit. And then once you can slide your jigsaw blade in there, you just cut around the outlet. I always try and make the cut a little bit smaller so that if I need to, I can sand it or cut it to make it bigger, but you can't really add material once you've cut it too big. Next, I went ahead and extended the outlet. So I took the fixture off the wall and then I slid that extender behind it. And then I kind of had to fidget to make sure that it was the right depth with the actual wood trim around it. And I'm no electrician here, but this is like a newer home, so I didn't feel too concerned about fidgeting with it, but you should always consult a professional if you're not sure how to do this. Do is mark this, so this is going to be like here, and then from the bottom it's going to be like here, and hopefully I can just connect those two marks. If you haven't invested in a speed square, it's like the best $10 that you can spend to really take your carpentry to the next level. So I used a speed square to mark out where the exact point is going to be for that cut, and then I used my jigsaw to just cut it out. And this is the last part of the wall that has to be completed for the vertical shiplap, and it adds so much character. I love how this looks with the wallpaper, and the last thing we have to do is just touch up all those nail holes and give it one more coat of paint.
Ooh, now we do all the boring work. Ooh, filling all these holes. So I like this. I'll show you why I like to use this. Now I like this cap because you don't need to like remember where your spackle is. What's it called? Your putty knife. Because I can never remember, so now you just like wipe it off. It's awesome. I really love this little gadget.
I gently sanded it with P220 grit paper and then gave it one more coat of paint, and look at this. Isn't this vertical shiplap beautiful? It adds so much depth and character to this bathroom. This is a fantastic beginner project, and I hope you feel confident in tackling everything from cutting the boards to around the outlets. And if you did, make sure you subscribe to my channel because there's actually more to this bathroom, and I've got lots more accent walls too. See you next time.